Thank you. Yeah, so I'm Vicky Young. I'm head of the Stop It Now helpline, which is run by the Lucy Faithfull Foundation. So I'm going to talk through a little bit about the Lucy Faithfull Foundation and go into a lot more detail about the Stop It Now helpline. I will also mention some of our campaigning work and also some of the other services that are available. I've got quite a lot of information, so I will get through as much as possible in the next 40 minutes. So the Lucy Faithfull Foundation is a child protection charity. It was established back in 1992 in the name of Baroness Lucy Faithfull. So she was a social worker by trade. She was very influential in the 1989 Children's Act, and she had a slightly unusual approach at the time, which was that in order to prevent child sexual abuse, you need to work with people that cause the harm, because that is the best way of preventing children from being victims. It's still a bit of an unusual approach now, but that is the foundation of the work that we do, and that is the majority of the work that we're involved with. The Stop It Now helpline was a campaign and helpline that started in the early 90s, and it was another influential lady called Fran Henry. She was doing campaigning work, again, had the slightly unusual approach that in order to prevent child sexual abuse, you needed to work with perpetrators. She herself was a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, so she was probably having that voice, but also having the really strong message that even victims of sexual abuse recognize the importance of this. We are one of 6 Stop It Now helplines. So the latest addition to the Stop It Now family was about 3 years ago, where Australia started. But there are other prevention helplines globally that do similar work, just don't have the Stop It Now branding. We are all run independently, but we do collaborate on a lot of things such as research and sharing knowledge and resources. So the helpline is available for anyone with concerns about child sexual abuse. So we do have a really broad range of people who contact us, and I will talk you through some of the different key caller groups in a moment. One of the fundamental things that is really important about the helpline is the fact that it's an anonymous and confidential service. So we have no way of tracking or tracing people who contact us. We cannot identify callers by their phone number or people through IP addresses or anything like that. And people are able to stay anonymous if they choose to do so. So we're reliant on the information that they give us. So if they choose not to give us any identifying information, then they remain anonymous. The helpline can be contacted through the phone service, the chat service, and the email service. The opening times are on this slide here. The phone service is available Monday to Thursday 9 till 9 and Fridays 9 till 5. That's the best opening hours that we have. The chat service has sort of limited opening hours, but it is something we're building upon. And then we've got the email service, which obviously people can contact at any time. We do take the anonymity really carefully. It is one of the most fundamental aspects of the helpline, because if we weren't an anonymous service, then fundamentally people wouldn't call us to talk about their concerns. We do have a very clear confidentiality statement, which you can see here, which is read to every caller at the start of every call. It is at the front of our chat, and it is also before people send an email, they have to agree to the confidentiality statement. We are a child protection organisation, so if somebody did give us identifying information and they disclosed an offence that was not already known to the authorities or a risk of harm to anyone, including themselves, then we do have a duty to pass that information on. And we do so, if we have information that needs to be shared, then we will either make reports to the police or to Children's Services, depending on the most appropriate organisation. Most people who are not already known to the authorities are very careful about the information that they share to make sure that they don't give, identifying information to us. But there are occasions where we're working with people and maybe they disclose additional offending that the police aren't aware of, or quite commonly they talk about a risk of self-harm or suicide. And then obviously we do have a duty to pass that on. We probably pass on information about once a month on average. it does vary, but that kind of shows, I guess, how much we do have to sort of take that into account and pass the information on. The helpline is an action-oriented helpline, so we're not a listening service. We're not like the Samaritans. We will try to understand people's situation and their concerns. We will show compassion and look at their well-being, but fundamentally at the center of all of our work is child protection. So we do focus on that. We provide a lot of information and support, and we discuss the available options for people so that we can encourage them and motivate them to take actions. And we try to engage with people so that they take at least one or more protective actions. Those can be quite simple things, such as seeking support from a GP around their mental health, or going to our self-help website to look at the self-help modules that are on there. It can be very practical things, such as if they're concerned about their online behavior, putting restrictions in place, such as getting pornography blocked through their internet provider, or like changing their behavior around their online use, making sure that they only use the computer when there's other people in the room or other people present, trying to get away from the kind of secrecy and privacy that they might have created. 97% of our callers agree one or more protective actions, and 94% of people who contact us again say that they've taken the actions that we've agreed. So this does seem to be an approach that engages well with people who are motivated to change. We are an ongoing source of support for people. There is no minimum or maximum amount of contact. We find that people probably on average are in contact us for 1 to 2 years. Quite often, the majority of people who contact us are known to the authorities, and they will contact us at the point of arrest and then stay in contact during the course of that investigation period, and usually kind of like ending the contact once they've been sentenced, and usually kind of with the support of the probation service. So this is a breakdown of the different people who contact us. We are an adults only service. Having said that, we do get a number of people who are under 18 contacting us. Often it's through the live chat or email service, and we would never just turn them away. We will always try to offer some support, check in on their well-being, and find appropriate signposting. Often that signposting is to other parts of the Lucy Faithfull Foundation, and most recently it has been to our SureSpace website, which is a similar service. It is it's a website with a chat service and email service, which is aimed at 13 to 18-year-olds that are worried about harmful sexual behavior. That can be the behavior they've undertaken themselves, or it could be behavior that someone else has directed at them, or there's information on there about where they can get support and how to recover from the fact that a parent might have been arrested for a sexual offence. So that website has been running for about 2 years now and has steadily grown in that time. But just over half of the people who contact us are people who are concerned about their own sexual thoughts or behaviour towards a child. A majority of those are known to the authorities. We have a good relationship with the police. They give out our leaflets when someone is arrested for a sexual offence against a child, and do often encourage them to contact us. In part, that's part of their suicide prevention sort of strategy, but we are getting a growing number of people who are not yet known to the authorities, and that is a really key group of people to target for us, because we know that actually the number of people that are sexually offending, particularly those online, is far greater than can be dealt with within the criminal justice system. So if we can engage with those people at the earliest opportunity, be it when they've first gone online and seen something that they're worried about, or they feel like their online behavior is escalating and getting out of control, or whether they've been offending for years or even are at risk of a contact offence, we want to engage with them to try and put protection in place through those kind of practical and longer term behavioural change methods. The next biggest client group are adults and under 18s concerned about the sexual thoughts or behaviour of another adult. This is predominantly partners, and again, predominantly of people who have been arrested. So when the police go out to do an arrest or place someone under investigation, they will give out one of our leaflets to the family members. So often they are really massively affected by that, the arrest and and what's happened. Their loved one has just been arrested. They were completely unaware of what was happening, and there is research that indicates that family members, particularly partners, suffer sort of PTSD from that knock at the door and the police investigation. So if we can offer support, that is obviously fantastic for us. We again are getting a growing number of people contacting us where the loved one isn't known to the authorities. So it could be that someone has found indecent images, for example, on their partner's device, or they've maybe got concerned about some of their behaviours around a child, and we can offer, again, support and advice to them at that stage. We get a number of contacts from professionals seeking advice. Often this is health, education, children's services. Sometimes it's around advice for clients that they're working with, if there's any services available for them. Sometimes it might be to do with a disclosure that's been made or some concerns about behaviour that they want some advice on how to deal with that. We're getting a growing number of contacts from parents worried about the sexual thoughts or behaviour of a young person, particularly, again, online behaviours. And that is an increase that we've seen over the past 5 years. I think it's gone up by about 24% in that time. So it is definitely a growing area for us. We get a small number of adults concerned that a child has been a victim of sexual abuse, and then we get a even smaller number of adult survivors of child sexual abuse. Quite often they're contacting us not because they're seeking counselling, because, like I said, we're not a sort of counselling service, but we can signpost, obviously, to survivor organisations. But sometimes we'll get contacts from survivors who have maybe never disclosed their what happened to them. They might still have the perpetrator in their family. They've now got children of their own and they want to know how to protect them. So we can talk to them about disclosure, about reporting, those kind of things, what the consequences are, what the process is. But also we can look at things around family safety planning. And we've got lots of information on our Lucy Faithfull Foundation website, including some family safety plan templates that can be quite helpful for people. We also get survivors who are worried that because of what happened to them, that they're maybe hypersensitive to the warning signs. So we can talk about what is expected sexual development and hopefully either reassure them or actually reinforce that what they're worried about is something that they need to take very seriously. Again, we've got lots of information on our website, including some traffic light tools to hopefully guide parents around what kind of behaviour is expected at what age. We have grown since we launched in 2002, predominantly connected to the funding that we have had available. The peaks and troughs are generally related to that issue. We are predominantly government funded. In 2018, when I took over as Helpline manager, we got some additional funding, which enabled us to really increase our availability. However, we still know that about half the people who tried to get through to us can't get through because the demand is far greater than we can meet. I thought it might be helpful just to give you a bit of a breakdown in terms of how those people kind of contact us each year. So the majority are through the phone service, which, as you may remember from the opening hours, is partly because our opening hours are better on the phone line than any other service. But also we do tend to have more staff on the service. So we have between 6, maybe sometimes 4 in the evenings, but during the day we'll have between 6 and 9 advisors on. We do find that we're busier in the mornings, quieter in the evenings. Our chat service launched in 2020 as a direct response to COVID. We found that people were finding it difficult to make phone calls because of family being at home, for example. So we launched the service and that has grown in the last 5 years. However, it is still much smaller in terms of availability, and also our advisors. So we only have 2 or 3 advisors on the chat service at any one time. Part of that is around our staffing and who is comfortable and skilled to work on the phone versus the chat. And some of it is around the, I guess, our kind of core belief really that having those conversations with people feels a little bit easier and more meaningful with some of the difficult nature that we cover. Having said that, we have been amazed really by how much people do engage with the chat service. When we launched it, we kind of saw it as a conduit to them people making phone calls, but actually some people will just stay on the chat service, particularly younger people, and also people that are not known to the authorities. There must be something that feels more anonymous about that service. So we do get higher numbers. About half of the people who contact us via chat are not known to the authorities, where on the helpline it's much, much lower, around 20%. And our emails, pre-COVID, we got about 50 emails a month. During COVID, that went up to about 300. And then since then, it has gone down a bit, but we're still around the kind of 200 to 250 a month. So I think where people move to more of an online world, some of those aspects have still sort of stayed in terms of how they contact us. I'll just briefly mention our advisors. We have about 30 part-time advisors. They are all paid staff. We don't use volunteers. They come from a variety of backgrounds across the board. And one of the absolute strengths for me of the helpline is that variety in the background. So if people have got specific questions about the criminal justice service, then we will have somebody around who can answer that question, even if we can't answer it immediately. Usually we've got people who have got the knowledge, and we can offer appointment calls with particular members of staff if people do have those really specific questions, like what is the process when children's services come involved. We can actually put someone in touch with someone who worked in children's services and can go through in detail what to expect and how to prepare, and how what questions to ask and those kind of things. Likewise, we're able to tap into staff within the Lucy Faithfull Foundation, so we're not limited to our advisor pool in terms of that knowledge. So the Lucy Faithfull Foundation has a schools project manager, and she's been engaging with some schools in the West Midlands to look at harmful sexual behaviour in schools. As part of that work, she's been taking some calls on the helpline to give schools that more in-depth knowledge and advice that we wouldn't be able to give, relying on like the general advisors who have to have a broad knowledge around a lot of topics. Again, we've also got lots of information on our Lucy Faithfull Foundation website around schools, including schools safety plans, which are a fantastic resource. So in terms of how we help, we support callers with that emotional distress caused by their situation. We offer the safe space to understand and address their behaviour. We help callers identify the nature and seriousness of their concerns, and then we explore options available, including referrals to our own or other organisations. And the key thing that we always do is focus on child protection and actions that the callers will take. Thought it might be helpful just to quickly run through a case study. So this is somebody who was under investigation for accessing indecent images of children. After his arrest, he was very distressed. He also has a history of self-harm and suicide. Lived with his partner, who is struggling with severe anxiety since the knock. They do not have any children. Peter has no previous offending, but admitted that he's been accessing indecent images since he was made redundant at the start of the first COVID lockdown. He had no immediate self-harm plans. In terms of those agreed actions, the first one is often around self-care, so working with the GP regarding his mental health, making sure he knew where to go for that crisis support if he felt suicidal. Encouraged him to have daily routines, engage in healthy offline activities, and also put those restrictions on his devices to keep himself safe online and make it that little bit harder to re-engage in that behaviour. We also encouraged him to look at our self-help modules that are on the website. The first set of those do focus on self-care, so we often direct people to those and then encourage people to move on to some of the more difficult, harder hitting ones once they feel more emotionally stable. advised him to keep in contact with the helpline, and also suggested that his partner should contact us as well. Similarly, I've got an example of a partner who's been in contact with us. Their partner was arrested for online sexual communication with a child, and they have a 9-year-old son. There was initially bail conditions stopping Bob, the person who'd been accessing the images, from living at the family home, and Children's Services were involved and had made the son a subject to a child protection plan, and contact between Bob and his son is supervised by the paternal grandparents. So Emma, the partner called, was encouraged to look after her self-care. Often the partners are not very good at focusing on that when they're trying to look after everybody else. Encouraged her to feel prepared for a meeting with Children's Services by making a list of questions to help her understand the involvement. Again, we've got lots of information on the Stop It Now website, so having a look at that. It does mention the Parents Protect website here. I need to update this because actually the Parents Protect website has been changed, and so all of the information that was on there is now on our Lucy Faithfull Foundation website. So we've now got a section called Advice for Parents, so they can access that information there. And again, staying in contact with the helpline and considering our Inform program, which is a program for partners who are wanting to engage with other people going through the same kind of situation, understand more about online offending, and at the moment that is fully funded, so there is not a charge for that, and people can access that through the helpline. With a little bit of a follow-up for this one. So after the first call, Emma felt that she was better supported with her and her son's needs, and she continued to work with Children's Services around her ability to be the protective parenting person for their son. And actually, she was able to evidence to Children's Services that she was a protective parent, so could supervise that contact. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, does the helpline work? Does it prevent sexual abuse of children? And that's a really difficult question to answer, because actually, how do you evidence that you've prevented something from happening? There was an evaluation of the helpline back in 2014, which was of the Stop It Now UK and Ireland, but also the one in the Netherlands. And the feedback was that we helped people understand that their behaviour can be changed. We helped people to strengthen their protective factors, helped them to identify what of their behaviour was risky, and helped with identifying techniques to change their behaviour. The big concern that came out of this each time was around confidentiality and the fear that we would be reporting them to the police. Since then, we have had an annual campaign looking at trying to engage with people who are offending online and not involved in with the authorities. And I'm going to come on to mention that in a bit more detail. That's been evaluated each year as well, and comes out with similar findings in terms of how we support people and how we can help them recognise their behaviour that needs to be changed. But the exciting news is that we are currently in the middle of data collecting for an evaluation as part of Prevention Global. So we're one of 5 prevention organisations that have been chosen to be evaluated, and we hope to have some answers in spring, just to be able to show really the impact of our call on things like well-being, suicidality, and importantly risk, and also looking at those actions that we're agreeing to see if they are having an impact and what that impact is. So that's really exciting for us, and particularly because it's an external evaluation like the 2014 one was, and that for us is really important to really show the impact that we're having. So I mentioned the deterrence campaign. So this is a campaign that started back in 2014 with some interviews with people who'd been offending online that we were working with. And we asked them, what messages would you have listened to if you'd have seen them, if you'd have seen messages when you were offending before the police got involved, what sort of messages would have helped stop your behaviour or get you to seek help? And there were some themes that came out of that. So one was recognising what was illegal behaviour. There was one around recognising the impact on victims. one around recognizing the consequences for themselves, so the fact that they could go to prison or be on the sex offender register. And then one was around knowing that there was actually help and support available at that time without them being known to the authorities. So we used those themes and developed some short films, which are now used in media articles, in social media adverts, and basically what we're trying to do is reach people where they're offending and drive them to the website and to the helpline. And this graph you may see isn't particularly easy to read, but basically the big peak is showing the campaign period and how that does help to drive traffic to the website. So that is really great news for us. We also have a relationship with it says MindGeek, it's actually now ALO, who run Pornhub and other pornography websites. And if people look for indecent images or put in search terms which might be inappropriate, or have gone to a page where there used to be an image that was reported and removed, they will now get given a warning page, and this directs them to get support from the Lucy Faithfull Foundation. We also have similar splash pages, which the IWF will use. If they take down an indecent image, they will replace it with one of our splash pages. I have got one of the short films here. I am going to just quickly show this to you. This was reaching the key message that people said to us about the fact they'd got a real fear of the knock at the door and the police coming. So we were trying to tap into that fear with this.
Do you live in fear of the knock? If you're viewing indecent images of children, you've got good reason to. But it's not too late to change. For anonymous support to stop, go to stopitnow.org.uk.
So that was one of the films. We've got them trying to target different areas, and the next one we're looking at developing will actually have a bit more of a lean towards the support aspect rather than this fear-driven one. It's a really difficult balance to reach in terms of wanting to tap into the fear, but not actually just terrify people, which then makes them more entrenched in their behavior and like fearful of getting help in terms of the police. But this graph is to show the impact. So the kind of orangey ready color is the people that contact us concerned about their online behavior that are already known to the authorities, and the blue bit is those not yet known to the authorities. And as you can see, it's still a small percentage of people contacting us, but the important thing for us is it is growing each year, and that is evidence really that the campaigning work is working and we are reaching people in those spaces who are offending. I've mentioned our website. This is just a little note to show you where it is and what it looks like. So we've got lots of information on there. We've got a section for professionals. We've got these self-help sections as well. One which is called Get Help, which is for people worried about their online behavior. One which is for people worried about their sexual thoughts or behavior towards a child. We've got the family and friends section, which includes a forum for family and friends, so that if they've got a loved one who's been offending online, they can get support from people in the same kind of situation as themselves. I've mentioned Sure already, so this is the website for young people. What's been really interesting for us to see is that 72% of the people who have contacted Sure have not told a professional about the behavior that they were concerned about. So for us, that really does show the need for that confidential service for those young people. as I've mentioned as well, we do have other follow-on services through the Lucy Faithfull Foundation. These are mainly accessed through the helpline, but if you do ever work with a client and think, oh, I don't know if this is something that the Lucy Faithfull Foundation could support with, then you can contact us via the helpline and we can direct you to the right place. Particularly a lot of our resources are targeted around online offending. They're not exclusive to that, but we've got in particular a group work program for people who have offended online, which is self-funded because we don't have any current funding for that. We've got a program for partners and family members, and we've got a program for young people who have got into trouble online. Again, that is funded. However, unfortunately, at the moment, we've had to pause the waiting list because it has got too long. We're hoping that that might change in the new year and we'll be able to take people's kind of referring themselves again in the new year. And then we offer a callback service, which is to support people with the online modules, and that can be done over the phone, so therefore it can be done anonymously. So with any of these kind of face-to-face services, we do need to know who the individual is, and we cannot work with them if they're not already known to the authorities, because we would have to report them. So we offer these callback services as a way of engaging with people who are, like I say, not yet known to the authorities but needed a bit more additional support. One last little plug, which is to one of our Faithful papers. So we've got a number of Faithful papers which look at some of the different projects and research that we're involved with. This one I always plug because I helped write it, and it talks about what we see on the helpline and trends and insights that we've had over the past kind of 20 years of running the helpline, to see how things have changed. You can also keep updated with signing up to the Lucy Faithfull Foundation newsletter, which will let you know about new developments and things like that. So that is the whistle-stop tour of the Lucy Faithfull Foundation. Hopefully I've kept relatively to time, and I know we've got some time for questions at the end, so I shall hand over.